What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. I'm Jazz, and in today's video I want to dive into some more technical specs and features of my 2007 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I know in the last video I took it out on a drive, so if you all did not catch that video, feel free to check out the link in the description box below. But today I just want to dive into more features, more of the technical aspects of the car, and also kind of give you all a heads up on some maintenance and repair items that I've had to deal with myself so far, that you can kind of have an idea of what you're looking at if you ever end up getting into one of these vehicles. Let's get into it. First off, let's talk about the styling. It's actually one of my favorite aspects of these cars. This car has a very classical type of look to it. It has the typical Aston Martin grille that has become a staple with the brand. Also on the hood, you have two air vents that definitely give the car a little bit of a sporty edge. It's also a very easy way to distinguish the V8 models from the V12, and that the V8 models only have two vents, but the V12 has a total of four. The headlights are HID with LED strips down the center. So one of my LED strips has recently gone out on my headlight here. So basically, whenever that does happen, unfortunately, you can't just replace the individual bulbs. You have to replace that entire assembly, which is not very cheap. So I've seen these brand new go from right around $2,500 just for the part itself. And on the used market, you can also find these if you look around a little bit. Found some on a few sites, eBay and whatnot. I saw them for about $800 to $1,200. So even if you end up replacing it yourself, if it does go out, definitely not a cheap repair. Looking at the side profile, there are also vents on the fenders that give the car a nice touch, as well as allowing the engine to breathe a little better. And you have the body line that runs from those front fenders all the way back to the rear fender. A fairly low sloping roof gives the car a nice sleek profile. As for the brakes, it has a slotted disc with 14-inch rotors in the front and 13-inch rotors in the rear with 4 piston calipers. They are painted red with Aston Martin printed on them, which I think gives them a very nice look. Alright, so lastly on the exterior, we have the back end. So if you look, we have painted trim pieces in between both of the rear tail lamps, which is actually one of the staples that Aston Martin has used on a lot of their vehicles. If you look towards the bottom there, you have this mesh metal grille with the parking sensors integrated into it. And then lastly, on the deck lid here towards the top, you have this contour that protrudes out. And in my opinion, it really adds to the unique look of the rear end of the vehicle, especially considering it doesn't have a spoiler. All right, so let's talk about the transmission. So it has what Aston calls its sport shift transmission. So it is a 6-speed automatic single clutch transmission unit. It has automatic mode, also has the paddle shifters. And it's actually one of the things that I'm going to have to put some maintenance repairs into here sometime probably in the near future. I actually found out as I was preparing the video that the previous owner actually had the clutch replaced back in 2013, and they paid $6,000 for it. So quite an expensive item to have go wrong on these cars, and definitely something I would suggest if you're looking to buy one of these cars possibly. Make sure you find out if that clutch has been replaced or not. So the Vantage's power plant is a 4.3 liter V8 with a dry sump oil setup that makes 380 horsepower, maxing out at 7,300 RPM. All right, so let's talk about the engine maintenance. So far I've had the Aston for about 2.5 years. So I've had to do one oil change on it so far. So it was definitely not cheap. The parts alone cost about $400. So that's definitely one thing to be aware of with these vehicles. And also I have had some mechanical repairs done as well. I had to have an O2 sensor replaced, a idler pulley, a drive belt, and I also had an alternator put on. I'd say collectively, with all the repairs I've had done on the vehicle so far, I've probably spent right around $2,500 on it. I'm going to touch on the interior of the car. Let's start with the seats. The seats are very plush and comfortable, and I think they do well comfort-wise on a long trip. They're also leather wrapped with red stitching in the center to match the brake calipers. They keep that red stitch theme going throughout the cabin of the vehicle. It has a suede roof that comes all the way down the A-pillars to meet the dashboard. All the controls are fairly accessible, and Aston Martin has placed the start button at the center dash, which I think adds to its uniqueness. The navigation unit is definitely outdated for this day and age. You would probably be better off using your phone. It does have a small glove box, kinda sorta has a cup holder, but not really. Outside the glove box, each door has a small compartment for storage. It also has a manual style handbrake. Being that this car has no park, you will have to engage that handbrake every time you drive or park the car. Lastly, the trunk offers some storage space, possibly enough for 2 people packing lightly to go on a short trip. So what are my final thoughts on the Aston Martin Vantage? Is it an affordable daily driver? So I might be a little biased considering I have one, and I do really have a good time in it. I enjoy the car, but there's definitely some negatives that you should take into account. If you're thinking about getting into one of these vehicles, I would first and foremost think about how much you plan on driving the car. Are you going to drive it as your daily? Is it going to be just a once in a while special car to drive on the weekends? And I would set a budget, and I would probably start off with about $2,000 minimal, set aside each year just in case some extra repairs and maintenance pop up on the car. I will also do my due diligence during that process of research, looking into vehicles that you're going to buy, just to make sure whatever car you're getting into has had that clutch replaced at some point in its lifespan, hopefully sometime recently to when you're going to purchase the car. If not, I would make sure it's compensated and reflected in the price that you pay for it. These cars are also known for the hinge shocks going out on the doors, the hood, and the rear hatch. They just get weak with age, and if they have not been replaced before you buy your car, they'll probably need to be replaced soon after. So now for the good. So it is definitely possible to daily drive a Aston Martin Vantage. I actually did that myself for about the first 8 months of the ownership. I would say as long as you're someone that doesn't have a whole lot of cargo with you all the time, you're not always having to haul things, there's plenty of room in the interior of the car. I really never felt cramped riding in it, and I'm over 6 feet myself, and I feel perfectly comfortable driving the car. I have plenty of headroom. I don't feel like I'm cramped at all. So as for the exotic car experience, this car definitely delivers. It has ease of use, good styling, plenty of power. It's very comfortable to be in. And first and foremost, it just makes you feel special every time you get in it. So I would definitely say, without a doubt, it is a very affordable daily driver. So I hope you all found this video interesting. I appreciate you watching, especially if you made it to this point, but I will see you next time.